back to another in-depth weather video. In this video, I'll be talking about more hurricanes, rainfall, thunderstorms, and fire. Right now, I am on the National Weather Service page, where we have a lower risk for, we have a lower amount of red flag warnings. We only have a few in Colorado, a few in southeastern Arizona, and a few in north central California. Now let's move on to the Doppler Radar, where, let's zoom in here, we have our ongoing, let's do this, there we go. We have our ongoing threat for that cutoff low that will be dissipating throughout the day. We also have our severe threat in the central part of the country, as well as a rain and snow threat in the Rockies. Now, I do want to go to the National Hurricane Center. The tropics are heating up, but the two Atlantic disturbances that we were watching yesterday have dissipated. They are done. There's no activity over the next 5 days, at least no activity expected. Now, in the Eastern Pacific, there is a disturbance which has currently a 20% chance of cyclone formation in 5 days. In the next 48 hours, it is near 0%, but in 5 days, it's closer to 20%. So it's a broad area of low pressure, forming well south of the southern coast of Mexico in a couple days. Slow development of the system is possible through early next week. So that is the time frame, early next week. The low will be moving westward offshore of Mexico. So if this does form, it does not pose a threat to any land, at least normally. Eastern Pacific hurricanes really don't pose a threat to California. Sometimes they hit Arizona if they make landfall in the Baja Peninsula, generate a little bit more energy over the Gulf of California, and then hit Arizona. But most of the time, you really won't see anything in California. Now, the Central Pacific should be pretty, also no cyclones expected. So with that, this would be the second storm in the Eastern Pacific, because before Cristobal formed, that system was a tropical storm in the Eastern Pacific. So this would be the second storm if it forms, and I should have coverage on that. Next is excessive rainfall. So here is the current day. Slight risk associated with those thunderstorms, marginal risk as well. Basically just along the front where those heavy thunderstorms are going to be. Also some in Florida. Day 3. Lower risk in the central part of the country, still with that severe threat, slowly moving its way across the United States. And we will see that with the... So here is the current day outlook, where we are showing a marginal risk for severe weather in areas of Duluth, Minneapolis, Sioux Falls, Norfolk, Omaha, Lincoln, Wichita, and all this other light green area is general thunderstorm. So there are thunderstorms expected, but there is not a good chance of any of them being severe. At least severe enough to cover these 3 categories. So there is no threat of tornado, at least not at 2%. It's less than 2%. High wind 5%, and hail less than 5%. So severe storms are going to be all wind, and they have been recently. That is a trend that is going on right now. It's just all these strong wind storms. Now, let's go to the NAN 3-kilometer model, and we'll track some of those storms. So here's the storms that we're tracking. Here's the cutoff low that is dissipating. And here's our rain and snow threat. So most of the snow is done. I'm going to move from left to right. Most of the snow is done, but there still is a chance for some snow. And that rain threat will be dissipating throughout the next couple days as well. Now, next up, thunderstorms. Thunderstorms will be developing in those areas in marginal risk throughout today, and then we'll be moving southward tomorrow. We also have some more lines of thunderstorms that will be developing throughout this week into the weekend, and we'll all cover more of those most likely tomorrow or Saturday. I'm losing track of days. Now, let's move on to the cutoff low. As you can see, it is kind of dissipating. There is some thunderstorm activity with the storm, but it's very isolated, and the actual low pressure itself is it's going to be dissipating in the next few hours of when I'm filming this. But by the time this is airing, the low pressure should be completely gone, and we're just left with these showers. Now, next up, I do want to go to thermodynamics. So we do have that cold front associated with the storms. So here are the high temperatures for today. The Northeast is starting to heat up a bit. So instead of 60s and 70s, we're starting to see 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. This part of the country here, into the Great Lakes, and also parts of the Southeast, 80s and 90s, unless you live in higher elevations, in which you could see 50s to 70s. Now, this section right here, right in front of this cold front throughout the day, will be seeing 80s and 90s, but that will be cooling off as those storms move through, and then the cold front follows. And you can see clearly where that cold front is and where it will be. The West Coast is going to be generally warm, 60 to even 100 in spots, and the Rockies will be cooler in the 40s to 60s. Could see 70s, 80s, depending on your elevation. Now, I do want to go to, I think it's in the GFS model, where we can get the relative humidity. So, throughout the day today, we're going to be seeing some drier conditions across the southwest, which is kind of fueling our fire threat. And we're also going to be seeing the flow of moist air moving into the east as well, with that slow moving system as well as that cutoff low, kind of all trying to fuel the northeast with a lot of moisture. The northwest will be getting in some of that action as well, until that goes dry. Now let's move on to fire. So, fire risk is way down today. That is a good sign. So an elevated risk in areas around Tucson, in the southeastern portions of Arizona, and the southwestern portions of New Mexico. Always a good sign to see that threat shrinking and not growing. So that's all I wanted to cover. If you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss another in-depth weather video, and have a great Thursday.